Hello and welcome back. Today we're going over some of the novels that I purchased at a recent library book sale. So they were all $1. First up, we have a book by Doris Lessing. Now, I don't have any of her other novels yet. She was known originally for writing social fiction, so kind of writing on social issues. And then later she kind of got into writing on psychological novels, so kind of like delving into like relationships and the mind. And then in her third phase, as the critics call it, she started writing sci-fi, much to the chagrin of her readers. They didn't really like her as a sci-fi writer, but she liked it. She wanted to write sci-fi at the end of her career, and I think she was quoted as saying that sci-fi is actually a great genre for critiquing society and instigating social change. So really, she kind of reverted back to writing social fiction, but in the form of sci-fi. So make of that what you will. And this is the most famous of her sci-fis, and that is Shikasta. Okay. Apparently it's the first in a pentology, 5 books. We'll see how good the first one is before I buy the rest. And this one, I'm not even sure if it has lots of plot. Based on the summary I read online, it's like pure world building. It's like a totally fictional universe, and these people are kind of traveling from one planet to another and kind of acting as like philologists or sociologists, I guess, and kind of just documenting the society and how it works. So yeah, I don't know. I've never read anything by Doris Lessing, so we'll see how it is. Next up, we have something Canadian. Yes. For those of you that don't know, I'm Canadian. I live in Alberta. Now, this book isn't based on Alberta. It's based on Saskatchewan, so one province over, but close enough, okay? It's still prairie. Well, I'll take it. And that is Wallace Stanger's Wolf Willow, okay? Stanger was I think he was just like a writer, or no, I think he also taught at university, like a professor. Anyways, he was an intellectual dude, and he grew up. He was born in the States, actually, so he's technically American, but he grew up in Saskatchewan on a farmstead, and yeah, this book is an autobiography of his childhood, and so it kind of just captures the beauty of the landscape and like simple living and stuff, so yeah, looking forward to reading this one, for sure. Next up, okay, I don't really know what to say about this one. I bought this one, it was only $1, it looked good. I don't know, I just picked it up. And that is Sons of the Arctic by Doug Wilkinson. I couldn't find almost any information about it online, which means it's probably not really considered a classic. It's just an old book, which, you know what, that's fine too. I like old books. And I think it's also for kids. It's just like a book about, I wouldn't say it's fiction, but it's based on reality, I guess. And it's about the Inuit in the Arctic. I'm not sure if Wilkinson actually ever traveled there. I would assume he did in order to write this. But yeah, a children's book on the Arctic. Next up, I don't usually buy like criticism or like essays because I just find them boring. I don't know. Even though I probably should read them to supplement my novel reading. But I did pick this up, again, only $1. And that is Politics and Literature in the 18th Century. Now, it's just a collection of writings and essays from various figures from that time. And it's mostly about Whig versus Tories. I barely even know what that is, to be honest, so maybe I do need to read this book. But yeah, if you look through like the table of contents, it's all just heavy hitters. Like the authors that are compiled in this book: Henry Fielding, Alexander Pope, John Gay, Samuel Johnson, David Hume, Joseph Priestley, Oliver Goldsmith, Edmund Burke. Like it's just all like really well-known names. Mary Wollstonecraft, William Wordsworth. Yeah, so hard to go wrong. When will I get to this one? I don't know. Probably not for a long time. But yeah, it's got a cool sticker on the front page. I don't know what that's about. But yeah. Okay, next up we have Denis Diderot, Jacques the Fatalist. Okay. Now, Diderot, I think he was just before the French Revolution, born like 17 something. Oh man, 1713 maybe? Let's see if I have it pulled up here. Yes, I was right, 1713. Look at that. Good memory. Now, Diderot was another like public intellectual, philosopher, critic. When he started to become a writer, his father disowned him, and he actually lived as a bohemian, so like couch surfing is what we call it nowadays. Kind of just like traveling from one place to another, financially unstable, and just pursuing his dream of being a writer. And yeah, I'm not sure, I don't think this is his most famous work actually. He's most known for contributing to the French Encyclopedia, which I don't know how to pronounce it in French, Encyclopédie. And it was kind of the height of Enlightenment philosophy at the time, and it kind of is a forerunner of the French Revolution. This book in particular, Jacques the Fatalist, it is not nonfiction, it's fiction, and it's about an unnamed master and his valet or servant named Jacques. And the master kind of just in idle time asks Jacques to tell stories of his past life before he was a servant. And he goes on telling of his old loves and like other comical anecdotes from his past. And yeah, the premise kind of reminds me of Sam Weller from Pickwick Papers, or Sancho Panza from Don Quixote, right? Kind of like the bumbling but also wise servant. Yeah, so that's a interesting find. Yeah, not sure when I'll get to that one. Next up, we have a book. I think this guy, he's also French, but he lived about 100 years before Diderot, and that is François La Rochefoucauld. I swear half the entertainment of these videos is just watching me try to pronounce foreign names. And that is Maxims, okay? Now, La Rochefoucauld, he was born a nobleman, but the aristocracy was kind of unstable at the time, but he did make a name for himself as a military man. He served in several campaigns, I'm not even sure against who, but kind of, made money doing that, and then took to writing when he was too old for the military. I don't know. But this is just like a bunch of like 16th century Twitter posts. Did I get that right? 16th century or 17th century? 17th century. If you open it to a random page, they got over 600 of these like one sentence little proverbs. But some of them just seem so obvious or like stupid. I don't know. Let's just read a few at random. Neither the sun nor death can be looked at steadily. Greater virtues are needed to bear bad fortune or good fortune than bad. Like, this just seems so like, I don't know, like empty. I don't know if I'll ever read this, but it's cool. I like the cover. Maybe I'm getting too many books now. I'm just buying ones that like are printed by Penguin Classics, not even ones I want to read. But hey, you don't have to read all the books you buy. I don't know, I think it was Umberto Eco. I think I'm saying that name right. He's like I think he might be dead now, but he was like a 20th century author, 21st century as well. He wrote, oh, come on. Is it Foucault's Pendulum? And I don't know. They're on the tip of my tongue, his novels. But yeah, he's kind of a well-known guy, and he owned over 50,000 books in his own personal library, and he saw his personal collection as a medicine cabinet, right? He's not going to read all the books in there, it's way too many, but like to address a certain mood or situation, he would pull down a very specific book and kind of treat his library like a medicine cabinet. So, hey, smarter minds than me have justified buying books, so I'm just going to roll with it. Okay, 3 more here. We got a mystical book by a Spanish saint, theologian. That is Dark Night of the Soul by St. John of the Cross. I'm not sure if his writing of this book was precipitated by a mystical experience, or if he just was influenced by other mystical writers, primarily Pseudo-Dionysius, who I don't really know too much about, but he was a Neoplatonist from like 6th century or something. And he had influenced a lot of like Western mysticism. But yeah, Dark Night of the Soul, what I know about it, he wrote like this 8-stanza poem, and then this book is like based on like a explanation of the poem. I think the main idea behind Dark Night of the Soul is basically that there's like union with God or enlightenment requires some sort of like sacrifice or like period of painful like kind of disintegration of the ego, or some kind of like despair. Anyways, that's the idea. Two more. This one here, we have a beautiful portrait of Stephen Crane on the front. This is a compilation of his works. Okay, Red Badge of Courage is the one he's most known for, but this one also has other writings, including The Open Boat. I think it's based on a true story. His ship was marooned for 30 days, and he had to, or no, his ship sank, and he was in a dinghy on the ocean for 30 days. So I don't know if they had fresh water. They must have had fresh water and food on board for him to survive. But yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, and that is, oh yeah, I already said Stephen Crane. Looks like he's mewing on the front cover. What do I know about Stephen Crane? He won the Pulitzer Prize, 1972. Also, I forgot to mention, but on our first book, Doris Lessing, she won the Nobel Prize for Literature, 2007. That's a high honor. And now I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying about Stephen Crane? I'm not sure if he was always a writer or what, but I know that Red Badge of Courage is a Civil War novel. I don't know if you can hear that. My dad's yelling at the TV. Red Badge of Courage is a Civil War novel. Now, Civil War was over about 5 or 6 years before Crane was born, so he never served in the Civil War. But it's about a young man who deserts the line of battle, and he feels very guilty about deserting his duty to the army, and so he kind of roams about the country looking to have an injury or get involved in a battle somehow, so that he can have a wound to bear as like a red badge of courage to show that he wasn't a coward, to kind of vindicate himself after fleeing. Now, I wondered, because the book is like a war novel, if Crane ever actually served in a war. I know, obviously he didn't serve in the Civil War, not being born yet, but maybe he served in a different war. And I don't think he did. He worked as a war correspondent, so which is like a journalist who like goes to the front lines and like reports on what's going on. So certainly he was involved in the war and saw it firsthand, but I don't know if he actually like was like an active duty member, like doing any of the fighting. Yeah, Stephen Crane. Red Badge of Courage. Lastly, we have a work which is decently well known, although the author is not really well known, kind of a flash in the pan, if you will. And that is the American writer Janet Lewis and her book, The Wife of Martin Guerre. Now, I think she intended the book as like a treatise against using circumstantial evidence. Not really sure how she got that motivation, and the book is like pretty short. But apparently it's good, and it's based on a true story of a French imposter from the 16th century, a French peasant, and it's highly moral. Okay, so the idea is that this guy abandons his wife, and then some other guy comes back who like looks very similar, but it's actually not her husband, and he's very nice and kind, and her previous husband, the real guy, is like very rude and mean, and so the wife is faced with this moral dilemma, right? Does she accept this new man as her husband? Everyone else thinks that he's her husband. She knows obviously that he isn't, but he's so nice and everyone kind of accepts it, so maybe she can just go along with it. But then her husband returns and she's forced to make a decision. Does she keep up the farce and accuse the real guy, or does she come clean and accuse the fake guy? And in the end, I think she chooses to reveal the truth, upon which she's like divorced or disowned by her husband or something. I don't know. But yeah, seems like a timeless tale. Anyways, yeah, Wife Martin Guerre. That was kind of a weird stack of books today. I wasn't super passionate about any of them, really. I'm not really sure if I'm putting any of those to the top of my list, except maybe Wallace Stanger's Wolf Willow, because I think that one's Canadian, and maybe I want to read that one sooner than later. Otherwise, yeah, the rest of these are kind of just like weird, deep cuts. Not sure if I'll ever get to them. Hopefully I'll get to them sometime, but not anytime soon. But it does bear the question, you know, I have over 1,100 books now, kind of closing in on 1,200. How long will that take me to read all those, right? If I'm averaging 50 or 60 books a year, let's ask the calculator here. 1,200 books divided by 60 books a year gives me, no way, it's actually 60. 60 years? Wait, that doesn't make sense. Does it actually take me 60 years to read them all? Wait, 1,200 divided by 60 books a year. Wait, no, it's 20. I think my calculator's broken. 20 times 60 is, yes, okay. I should be able to do that in my head. I have like 2 STEM degrees. This is terrible. Yes, 20 times 60 is 1,200. 20 years. Wow. Okay, so I might not get to these ones for 20 years, but I will read them, I promise. Okay, I don't know why I'm still talking. See you later.